Hey guys, Pete here. Today I'm going to do a Better Call Saul video where I look at the most popular theories about how Kim Wexler's story will end. This has become one of the biggest questions Season 6 will answer. In a prequel show where we know where so many characters will end up, Kim's not being in Breaking Bad leaves her fate wide open. In this video, I'm going to pick up where my first Kim video left off. I made that before the Season 5 finale, so it talks about the different options based on the evidence we picked up through both series up until that point. Of course, the ending of Season 5 added a whole nother layer to things. It now seems like as good a time as any to give it another look. First, a spoiler warning. I'm going to talk about everything that's happened in Better Call Saul through the 5th season, and everything that's happened in the greater Breaking Bad universe. The Better Call Saul official social media accounts asked fans what their favorite Kim theories were a couple of weeks ago, which include a lot of speculation I'll be discussing. If any of this sounds troubling to you, this is your chance to leave. Hit the subscribe button before you go, because I'll be covering the final season with weekly videos just like last time, and something like monthly Saul videos until then. Now let's get into it. It's kind of crazy how my best guess of what would happen to Kim shifted throughout Season 5. Early on, I had a feeling that we might see her turn the tables on Jimmy and con him, essentially having the end of their story be the conclusion of the season. Then there were many twists and turns along the way, including a wedding that was somewhat unexpected in the moment, and then her plan to go after Howard at the end. That was the big piece of info I didn't have when I made the first video, and that became the thing that really makes it hard to pin down where this is going. So what are the most popular Kim theories? I'll refer to those social media posts on the official Better Call Saul accounts, give you my thoughts on those, and then circle back to where I'm at in my guess as of today. I guess it's not surprising that there are a lot of fans that believe that she's still with Saul behind the scenes throughout the Breaking Bad timeline. Basically, we just never saw her because we never saw Saul outside of his working relationship with Walt and Jesse. I went into the details of this in my previous video, and honestly, I still don't really like it. Showrunner Peter Gould has said in an interview recently that the final season will change the way we think about Breaking Bad, but I don't think this is what he's getting at. It's not impossible, but I think it would involve too much retelling of that time period, which doesn't seem as likely as it used to based on where things were left. There's still a 4-year gap between the timelines of the two shows that they would have to skip over, and the fact that Saul uses Ed's services to disappear with no real indication that he's leaving someone behind, that would require some explaining. This is a popular idea though, and as I said, it's not surprising. The fans like Kim, and they like Kim and Jimmy together. Since they don't want to see something bad happen to the character, they look for ways where she could still be there. As I mentioned in the first video, Ice Station Zebra Associates is the best evidence for this theory. Watch that video if you want to hear more about that, and we'll come back to this idea of her still being around in the background in a minute. In contrast, it's also a popular theory that she'll die. Considering that, in the parlance of our times, she's in the game now, this truly is a possibility. Jimmy made his bones transporting Lalo's bail money to become a friend of the cartel, and Kim wound up right there with him. She made herself known to Lalo while he was in custody, and she stood up to him when he showed up at their apartment. Even though this would provide Kim with a definitive ending, I still tend to think that the writers probably have something more complex in mind. With how much she means to Jimmy, it's hard to see him being the guy we know from Breaking Bad if she's dead, especially if his involvement with the cartel is anyway responsible. It seems like something that he would carry with him and change who he fundamentally is, and not in the direction of being someone who likes being a criminal lawyer like Saul Goodman does. A death would also shut the door on any possibility of her coming back into Jimmy's life in the Gene timeline post-Breaking Bad. So, I don't think this is where the story is going, but I will concede that for that reason, it would be a shocking episode of television if they did kill her off. Since we're talking about the cartel, I should mention some of the people who think she's still in Saul's life off screen have a theory that she starts working with the cartel. Laundering money for Lalo could tie her into forming Ice Station Zebra Associates, continuing to do that then for Jimmy and Walt, but I don't think it's likely. Jimmy is still afraid of Lalo when they take him to the desert, which means something would have to happen to end any working relationship Kim was involved with. Could this happen? I guess so. Is it one of the best Kim theories? Not as far as I'm concerned. And while we're on the subject, in those posts there were quite a few people suggesting that Kim would run away with Lalo or even Nacho. But to me, those seem more like fanfic than real possibilities. Probably the next most popular answer I saw in those posts was that she'll use Ed the Disappearer to leave town. Something will happen with Lalo and the Cartel, or their plan to go after Howard, and they'll have to make a call to Best Quality Vacuum and place an order for a Hoover Max Extract Pressure Pro Model 60. This would answer the question of how Jimmy learned about Ed in the first place. But I mean, it seems like one too many times to use this same ending to me. Walt, Jesse, and Saul all got out of Albuquerque this way, so I hope they have something different in mind for Kim. Another popular idea is that her own recklessness will do her in. This has some grounding in that she's escalating from just enjoying a con for the thrill of it to straight up scheming by the end of season 5. She could take things too far in going after Howard to where she'd have to leave town. It should be mentioned that Robert Forrester, who played Ed, has passed away, which means we won't likely see him on screen again. And as mentioned, they've probably gone down this road enough already. That could mean that she flees town under different circumstances, or she might find herself in a situation where the consequences catch up with her. Going into the witness protection program is an idea that might make sense, or perhaps she'll end up having to do time. It's not a stretch to imagine Kim taking responsibility if things go wrong. I don't think that would be out of character at all, and there is a piece of evidence that could support this. In the one Better Call Saul scene that we have that takes place during the Breaking Bad timeline, the teaser in Season 4, Episode 5, Quite a Ride, Jimmy asks Francesca to do him a favor as they're fleeing from his law office. He says, "And where are you going to be November 12th at 3 p.m.? To which she responds, "I'll be there, but if it doesn't ring at 3 on the dot, I'm gone." So there's a phone call. It's scheduled for that date, which is Jimmy's birthday, and it's important enough that he wants whoever's calling to know that he would have been there if he didn't have to leave town. It's hard to think of someone besides Kim that this could be, and the nature of the setup raises some questions. Saul leaves Albuquerque in March, so this phone call is 7 months down the road. That and the fact that it's on his birthday make it seem like a one-time or a once-a-year occurrence. It also sounds like it's going to a prearranged payphone. We know Saul is well aware of burner phones. He has a drawer full of cell phones in this office. But for some reason, this call needs to be taken at a prearranged location. None of that amounts to a smoking gun, but it does seem like whoever's making the call is being monitored, or at the very least, trying to keep their communication to a minimum in a way where it won't be able to be used against them. One of the reasons I always come back to this is because this isn't the typical situation where there's a reference or a throwaway line from the original series that BCS picks up and runs with. This is something that the writers came up with and then injected into the future timeline with an episode teaser that they know fans will pick apart. It's there for a reason, there's no question about that. The question is whether it is there to set up Kim going to prison or going into hiding in the witness protection program or otherwise. If she's not still in Jimmy's life, she's not dead, and she doesn't find herself in big trouble, another theory to consider is that Jimmy does something on purpose to force her away. He sabotages the relationship in an effort to protect her. Character-wise, this could make sense, and it is an idea that's appealed to me at different times. Jimmy/Saul is a complicated character. He does and has done some awful things, but he's also pretty far from being straight up evil. If you boil it down to a simple label, he's something like a con man with a heart. What I like about the idea of him making a decision to push her in a way that she decides to leave him is that he definitely loses something in that. Not just that he loses his partner, a relationship that does mean a lot to him, but he also loses the idea that he could be something better. It's kind of a bummer when you think about it like that, but it would provide the path to the behavior we've seen in Breaking Bad, and so this is at least a possibility. The show does have a slightly different situation where the end of the Better Call Saul timeline isn't the end of the series. We still have the Gene timeline, and the real end of the story will happen there. Based on the end of season 5, we have to look at the flip side of this as well. The theory that Kim breaks bad and that Jimmy gets taken for a ride has never been as popular as it's been since she turned with those finger guns in the finale. Part of why we don't know what's going to happen to Kim is because we don't really know her. We know she works hard, she's competent, and that she grew unsatisfied working for guys like Kevin at Mesa Verde. We know there's a side of her that wants to do good through her pro bono PD work, and that there's a side of her who gets excited by pulling off cons with Jimmy. Beyond that, in a few brief flashbacks, we don't really know about her past. She's generally the voice of reason when Jimmy takes things too far, but have we sort of assigned her this role of being the moral center when that's not really the case? Possibly. The Sandpiper settlement could be motivation. It's life-changing money. Jimmy did her wrong, leaving her in the dark in his plan with Mesa Verde, and he went directly against what she asked him to do. If there was a moment when you might expect her to break in this direction, that would be it. But instead, she doubled down on the relationship. She proposed they get married and then followed through with that. Now, there are popular theories out there that the wedding itself was part of the plan. A lot of that hinges on her behavior at the courthouse and that weird pause and mention of her not having a middle name during the ceremony. This would be a hell of a twist and would also pave the way for Jimmy to go full Saul. There's enough there that if they did go this way, you could go back and find some clues, but I'm still not personally convinced. I think they could certainly pull it off, but a part of me doesn't want to accept it. And for what it's worth, my takeaway from the wedding scene was that she was actually into it. The final theory is the oldest theory, and one that just gets harder to imagine as the story goes on. The idea that Kim will finally get fed up with Jimmy's turning into Saul, and her finally deciding to leave him. For the entirety of the first 4 seasons, this is what fans were waiting for. What was the thing gonna be that would finally make her decide to leave him? Where was that exact moment where he became Saul and then she rejects him? For everything that I just said, I don't really think that's where things are going. She's had plenty of opportunities at this point, and she's always chose to double down. She's always chose to lean into the relationship rather than walking away. I've mentioned the Gene timeline a few times, so I'll just say that it's a very popular theory that Kim will return in the Gene timeline. There's different ideas ranging from she's already there. When she left Albuquerque, she went to Nebraska since that's where she's from. A pretty unlikely one is that she's working right inside the same mall and they run into each other. Or she just happens to show up at this mall and comes into Gene's store for a Cinnabon. If she was in hiding or in prison, maybe Gene is just biding his time until she can come there and they can get back together. And then, of course, the theory that Gene gets himself in trouble and Kim comes in to be his lawyer. So I think those are most of the popular ideas that are floating around. There are some silly ones out there, like she becomes Wendy in the Breaking Bad timeline, or she goes off and changes her name and becomes the character that she played in Franklin and Bash. I don't think either one of those is very likely, so I guess the only thing left to do is tell you where my thoughts are right at the moment, and I'll do that right after this. I want to take a minute to tell you about the sponsor of today's video. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. Explore new skills, develop existing interests, and get lost in creativity. I'm currently working through the course Advanced Video Editing with Adobe Premiere Pro 2020 by Jordy Vandeput. I like how he clearly explains the different topics, and I learned a couple of tricks that will really speed up my editing process. If you're uncertain about what's next, creative challenges and productivity classes can be a great way to help you structure your time and set up achievable goals. At a time when so many important conversations are happening in our world, your voice is more essential than ever. Explore classes to unlock your creativity for social good. Skillshare offers memberships with meaning. Connect with the support of fellow creatives and enter a community of encouragement, communication, and inspiration. Whether you're looking to fend off boredom, focus on self-care through creativity, or join a similarly creative community, Skillshare is the place to keep you learning. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. And after that, it's only around $10 a month. So check it out. I think you'll like it. My thinking as of right now is that Kim will throw herself into this plan to destroy Howard and force the Sandpiper payout. I think season 6 will pick up right where the finale of season 5 left off, and I don't think there'll be anything to stop her from moving in that direction. I think Jimmy will be reluctant at first, possibly even trying to steer her away from it, but eventually he'll start getting the high from doing what he's so good at, and we'll see them working together at the top of their game. The thing I keep going back to is this idea that Kim is the kind of character who likes to be in control. She likes to have everything laid out in front of her because she feels like there's nothing that she can't do. And she has this other tendency to not want to have anybody help her. She wants to do everything herself. She wants to control the situation that way. You don't save me, I save me. You don't fix it, I fix it. And I think this will end up bringing her down. It's hard to pin myself down to one thing, but if I had to say today, I would say I think she's going to probably end up in prison. There could be a chance that Jimmy could turn things around or he could take the fall, but she won't let him do it. And the reason we don't see her during Breaking Bad is because she's locked up. The telephone call that Francesca will be waiting for is going to be her. She'll be released at some point in the future, but Jimmy will have to go into hiding and he'll be out there being Gene, which will leave things open for her to return in that timeline. Pretty much any of the things I just mentioned could happen though, so I'm really interested to hear where you're at, what your favorite Kim theory is, what you think's going to happen in Better Call Saul season 6 in general. What are you hoping to see? What is the ending that you just wouldn't be able to accept for Kim? Let me know that and anything else in the comments. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Check out my other Better Call Saul videos and come back and watch season 6 with me. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.